Thanks for coming out. This is the first book signing of this book. This book I wrote, it's called Goin Off, the story of the Juice Crew and Chillin Records. And this is the very first book signing, and this is the very first book I wrote. So this is the very first book signing will have ever done. First off, I want to thank Drew and Adrian, who couldn't be here today, and also Jasmine, Amanda, and Bryce, and everyone at Artform Studio for hosting this event. Today marks the 14th anniversary of the Artform Studio. On November 1st, 2005 is when they first opened. So, and then I also want to thank DJ Steve Wonder, Steve Sloan. We went to high school together, actually, here in LA. He does this thing called The Questions, which is a hip-hop trivia night at the Blind Barber, which is about, I don't know, like 300 feet up the street, maybe the next block up. And on December 3rd, we're going to do a Cold Chillin themed trivia night over there. So, yeah. You can't come. You're going to win. It's not fair. And so last week I came in here and we were trying to figure out the setup here, and I said we're going to need 4 mics, one for Cut Chemist, one for Peanut Butter Wolf, one for Marley Marl, and one for myself. And it was the strangest sentence I ever heard coming out of my own mouth. Like, I can't believe this is happening. So a little over 2 years ago, Scott Bomar, who is this guy right here from BMG, he took a chance on me, on an unknown, someone who had never written a book before, and he gave me a deal. And then since then, I've met so many incredible people who have told me so many incredible stories, and it's just been a wild ride. And actually, this is the 1-year anniversary of me turning in the rough draft of the book. And so it's been about 2 years since I started writing it. And then let me introduce everyone. To my right is Cut Chemist, who is a Los Angeles native, like myself. He grew up listening to the original K-Day, 1580 AM, like myself. And his orthodontist was Dr. Zeiler on Larchmont Boulevard, like myself.
TMI.
Because there was an autographed 8x10 on Dr. Zeiler's waiting room. I said, well, Cut Chemist. He has the same orthodontist as me. He is a world-renowned DJ/producer, a member of Jurassic 5, and is known for his work with DJ Shadow, as well as lots of his own records. And then 2 people to my left is Peanut Butter Wolf. He is from San Jose, California. He is a world-renowned DJ/producer who recorded with his partner Charisma in the early 90s, and he released his own records, Peanut Butter Breaks and My Vinyl Weighs a Ton, and is also the subject of a documentary called Our Vinyl Weighs a Ton, the founder and owner of Stone's Throw record label, which is it's maybe 25 feet that way.
And that's enough. Thank you so much. And I have a bar, too.
And he owns the Gold Line Bar, and afterwards, everyone go to the Gold Line Bar after you get your book signed, after you buy your book. Go to the Gold Line Bar, and there'll be DJs. Because there are always DJs there. That's the whole point of it. And then, directly to my left is our guest of honor tonight, who is a world-renowned DJ/producer, hailing from Queensbridge, New York. Coming up in the hip-hop scene of the late 70s, he became the on-air DJ for the Rap Attack radio show on WBLS, hosted by Mr. Magic, a.k.a. Sir Juice of the Juice Crew.
World premiere.
His career evolved into that of a producer. He worked with Roxanne Shantae, MC Shan, Craig G, Biz Markie, Kool G Rap, Tragedy, Big Daddy Kane, Masta Ace, Heavy D, Eric B. and Rakim, LL Cool J, and many, many more. I'm talking about Marley Marl. Marley Marl is a central figure in the book you are buying tonight.
Let's give him a standing ovation, guys. Just you 4 in the front.
You forgot Glamorous.
And no. He didn't produce. Oh, yeah. Well, Juice Crew All-Stars. She's on the...
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so we'll just get into this really quickly with a couple questions for Cut Chemist and for Peanut Butter Wolf. First, Cut Chemist, how did you first become aware of Marley Marl and what he was doing in New York at the time, and how did it influence your own work as a DJ slash producer?
That's an easy one. Dimples D, Sucker DJs. It was a hot record on K-Day for the mega mixes and the mix DJs. But the thing I noticed was, I mean, the rap was cool, but the cuts were sharp and they were fast, and they were doing things that I never heard before, like the triplet, like. And I was like, damn, who is that? Marley Marl. Wow, that sounds like Melly Mel, but it's not. You know, like back then. You know, I was 11 years old, and so I couldn't find the record because out here you could hear the music on the radio, but I was too young to actually go out to like Uncle Jam's DJ booth and like on Western and Slauson to get it. Right. You couldn't like go to Warehouse and get it on Sunset in Hollywood. But I had it on tape, and then finally, like a few years later, I got it. But then, in '85, I heard Marley Marl scratch, and I keep hearing this name, Marley Marl, as a DJ. You know what I mean? Right. And I was a scratch DJ, and he was at the top. There were so many DJs at the time, DST and Mixmaster Ice. I put Marley Marl right up there because everything he did was sharp on the cut. Right. So as a DJ, that's how he came into my knowing who he was. Right. Before even as a producer.
Right. Okay. And then Peanut Butter Wolf, same exact question. How did you first become aware of Marley Marl, and how did he influence you in your own work as a DJ producer?
Well, I heard the song by Dimples D.
Is it about DJs?
I did start with that song too, but I did. I guess the song Marley Marl Scratch for me, like that really was like my favorite song when it came out. That was like song of the year. And I was living in San Jose, California, and there was a hip hop scene, but people knew everyone knew Run DMC, but beyond that, they knew like Two Live Crew, I guess, maybe, but there was this record store, I got it. It was, the record store would get one copy of like everything that sent to them, as a promo, and then they would just sell that one for 99 cents. And that store, they didn't really like hip hop, so they would take that one copy and sell it for 99 cents, and then I would be the one that got it, and then nobody else in the city had that record, so I would be like, people would be like, oh, this is the kid with all the jams. I'd make mixtapes and stuff instead of doing my homework in high school. So, but yeah, that song really stood out to me. And then, all the stuff after that, it was really like just him doing a compilation where the producer was the center of it rather than the rapper, and it was like all different rappers and stuff. So I was like, I want to do that, and so I started finding different MCs in San Jose where I lived. And right. That to me, that just changed everything. Having that record, like hearing it.
Marley Marl Scratch.
Well, Marley Marl Scratch, but then also the In Control, I'm saying.
In Control, okay.
Yeah. So.
And then you mentioned, actually, Peanut Butter Wolf wrote the foreword to this book, so a lot of that is in here. And the book, the record, My Vinyl Weighs a Ton, you mentioned is based on In Control Volume 1.
It really is, yeah. In 1990, I wanted to do like an album with all different MCs, and then I met this rapper Charisma, and we got along really well, and then that was my focus. And then he passed away when he was 20 years old, and then I went back and I'm like, I want to do a compilation, and that's My Vinyl Weighs a Ton. That was what that was, and it was basically me trying to be Marley Marl.
We all were.
And it's true, right? I mean, the influence, you can hear it, kind of that entire generation of hip hop from maybe the mid '80s on, the scratching, the beats, the cuts, the samples,
the raw sounds, and just the way you had the mics, like they were just kind of distorted, like it was. Yeah,
it gave us all hope because it sounded like it was done on gear that was broken, or was like you could get off the street.
Yeah, most likely was.
Yeah, and that, I remember hearing in 1986, which, by the way, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here, but I'm just going to go in. That was the year where it really just broke the dam wide open, because on K-Day, they said they were gonna not do the Mixmaster show live, but they were just gonna sit down and play a bunch of records they got from New York. And you owned that broadcast. It was the bridge, Eric B. as president, make the music with your mouth. And I was just like, damn, Marley's all over this.
Wow.
And it changed rap forever. The samples, you know, it was kind of like just as samples were coming in, but it was more like chopped, sampled snares and drum pieces rather than loops. But the bridge, that was the main one for me, that and Beat Biter. I was like, damn, that dude that did Marley Scratch is doing this. And it was huge. And I didn't know what Impeach the President was at the time. And then when I found out that came from an original record, how did you get that to sound like that? You know, was my question.
Well, basically for me, I used to play Impeach the President so much at parties that I had a little static on it from the needle. You know, a lot of DJs know that if you spin a record back and you start it off, it starts off a little bit of
Q burn.
Q burn. So when I sampled Eric B. as president and the bridge for sample for those and put it on my drum reel, there was just that much of static, that burn that was on the kick and the snare. And a lot of people ask me, like, how did you make yours sound like that? It's because of the Q burn that was already on the wax.
So it wasn't even intentional
And it
necessarily.
wasn't intentional, no. It just came out that way. It was just that lucky day that I sampled it that day, and it sounded that way. But the Q burn was a real big, important thing for like sampling DJs back in the day, because if you sampled a record with Q burn, that meant that it was a hot record that you was always bringing back in your parties. So it was very important to have that there.
This is like going nerd level here, but one of the things I found genius about the bridge is that you took away the open hi-hat that was signature in Impeach the President and replaced it with a kick. So it was like boom, 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 and not boom, which completely made it your own thing, and disguised it, which I thought was incredible.
Well, basically back in those days, I was just sampling kicks, snares, and hi-hats only. It wasn't really the music yet.
You didn't have enough sample time.
Right,
to do much,
I really didn't have enough sample time, so I was just trying to get away with what I could at the time. And I had like that 1.3 seconds to sample, that was a snare. The other 1.3 seconds to sample was a kick. I'll get a hi-hat and maybe a little cricket sound. And
What was the drum machine sampler you were using?
I was actually using a Roland 808 and triggering 3 separate samplers with the hi-hat. Actually, I was triggering from the toms, the 3 toms. I was using the pulse from them to trigger my samples, and that's before SP12s. That's before I had SDD.
It's in the book.
200, I believe.
Just kidding.
It's a Korg sampler.
I think there was a Korg delay,
Yeah,
so
rack
it was like
delay
a
unit.
Korg
yeah.
sample and digital delay.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
So this is for anyone who plays guitar. If a delay unit, that's
Yeah.
literally
Was it
the
like a
same
rack
thing.
or was it like
was
a
a rack.
little?
My first sampler was actually the foot pedal.
Yeah, yeah.
It had a trigger on it,
Yep.
and that's when I really went home. The very first day I bought a foot pedal sampler, triggered it off, got that going. Then I realized, wow, I could get a better sampler than this, because it's kind of embarrassing. I got a foot pedal as a sampler.
Thank God, though.
But
Right.
that's what gave it the sound too. Yeah.
Right, and that's before SP1200s and SP and let's say MPC 60s and Akai. That's before everything.
So how'd you come up? How'd you even figure that out in the first place? You were the only person doing this, right?
Yeah, well, it took a lot of thinking, because I was always a critical thinker, and I had to figure out how to loop
Right.
with the tempo. It's just weird the way I explain
Right.
it, because it was basically rocket science. It was basically we
That's why
strapped.
nobody else did it.
Right, we strapped gas tanks to our car and put it on and blasted up the street and see how far we could go in.
Right.
And basically, those songs were made out of necessity, because
Right.
the songs that were out at the time were not the greatest songs.
That actually brings me to my next question for you is, who were you looking up to as a producer when you were starting out?
Well, for me, I was an engineer first before I became a producer. I was a DJ, then I became an engineer because I was engineering bands, as you know. So I was always looking up to Giorgio Moroder.
Right.
I was looking at
That's a good one.
the electronic stuff that they were doing overseas,
Yeah.
as opposed to what the bands were doing in America.
Right.
Because I always thought that the electronic music was more locked and more tighter.
Yeah.
Bands were sloppy all over the place.
Right.
If you're an engineer for a band, you really know that bands are really sloppy.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're all over the place and loud and But
Lots to fix.
right. But electronic music was to me it was much tighter, and it had like a certain feel to it. And you have to think, like, when I was into Giorgio Moroder, this is like 76.
Right.
And
doing
then
Donna
they're
Summer.
doing
I Feel
Donna-
Love and
yeah.
Donna Summer.
And they're doing like I Feel Love, Donna Summer records. That's all electronic and tight. But over here, they're doing sloppy band stuff.
Yeah.
So I got into what they was doing over there. Like, wow, how do they trigger a bass line to stay on beat like that? So I was already ahead of the curve because I was somewhere else anyway in
Right.
the beginning.
So you like Kraftwerk back then too?
Yeah, I was into Kraftwerk. All of that electronic music,
Yeah.
I was making that.
Arthur Baker.
Arthur Baker, all
Yeah.
of that. The funny thing, when Arthur Baker first heard my first demo, Sucker DJs, with the Dimples D record, I was shopping him electronic beats.
Right.
I'm like, listen to this. Oh, that's nice. Now listen to this. And I'm speeding by, and I go to, I was at it. Oh, what was that?
Right.
1 little second.
Right.
Oh, that's some rap record I was working on. We're not here for that. He's like, no, let me hear it.
So much of the story in the book is things that happen completely by chance, like
Yes.
that, for example.
Yeah.
Like people just happen to be in the right place at the right time,
Right.
and the right person heard it and took a chance, or
And he took that chance,
Yeah.
and that was Dimples D record, my first record I ever made. And through every production that I ever did, I always brought a piece of equipment. That's when I brought my 808 drum machine off the Dimples D record.
we're gonna listen to. Steve's gonna play a little piece of something you produced, and then we can ask you about the story behind it.
My name is Roxanne. Don't you know I just a cold rocker fight and I do this show. I said I met these three guys and you know it's true. Let me tell you and explain them all to you. I met this dude with the name of a hat. I didn't even walk away. I didn't give him no rap, but then he got real mad and he got a little tired. If he worked for me, you know he would be fired. He wears a Kango and that is cute, but he ain't got the money and he ain't got the look.
That's Roxanne Shantae, a song called Roxanne's Revenge. Right, she was 14 years old when she recorded that, I believe.
Around there.
I think
I believe
something, maybe 15.
16 maybe. Hey.
Okay.
It was showbiz back then. So.
Yeah. How did that song come to be? Because I've asked other people and they give me different stories, and so whose idea was it for her to diss UTFO? That's a song she's dissing the members of the rap group UTFO and doing it over their own beat, and so this is kind of the birth of the diss record, which is like you hear that. Yeah, the first hip hop answer record. You hear, and now you have, Drake and Pusha T or whoever dissing each other to this day, 2019.
Well,
so.
plus all the other Roxanne answer records that came after it.
Yeah.
There's about a bajillion.
We'll get to that. but so whose idea was it for her to do an answer record for UTFO?
Basically, I had the instrumental. It just came into fruition because I had the instrumental. She happened to have rhymes dissing him.
Okay.
And I'd say, hey, come to the crib. And, I want you to get on this instrumental. And she heard what it was. She said, oh, I got rhymes dissing him. And, she just actually just made it up.
Wow.
She just made it up. One take.
One take.
She just did the vocals one time, one take, straight out from the beginning to end. Then she ran back down to the laundry. And, it was weird because she was running over there hiding from her mother, looking out the window. Her mother turned her head for some reason. She put the clothes in the spin cycle, snuck out of the laundry, ran up to my crib, did it in one take. snuck back downstairs before they stopped spinning.
12 minutes
and-
maybe,
and-
if that.
I would say 7.
7 minutes. Wow.
Was that in the movie? The Roxanne movie?
Yes, it was. And
Was
then,
it accurate? Was that movie accurate too? Well, finish what you were saying first. Sorry.
Well, and then she went back downstairs, and 2 weeks later we was on tour.
Wow.
It was that quick.
Yep.
It was that quick.
And then what happened was it became sort of a phenomenon of, first of all, her name is Lolita Shantae Gooden. After this record comes out or is played on the radio, she becomes Roxanne Shantae. So then you get all these records coming out. The Real Roxanne, Roxanne's Doctor by Dr. Fresh, Do the Roxanne by Dr. Rox and Company, The Parents of Roxanne by Gigolo Tony and Lace Lacey, and then Roxanne's Fat by the Potato Chips, and then and then towards the end it's No More Roxanne in parentheses Roxanne No More, and the final word No More Roxanne in parentheses please. It's like let's end this once and for all.
You forgot Roxanne's Lawyer, I think is one of them too.
Roxanne's Lawyer.
Yeah.
Did I not?
Roxanne's brother.
Roxanne's brother. Yo, my little sister, Roxanne's Brothers.
The
by,
Real Roxanne.
By Crush Groove, yeah. Real Roxanne, Rap Your Own Roxanne.
Roxanne's a Man.
Roxanne's man.
yeah.
Ralph Roll.
Yeah.
Roxanne's a man. Was really a man.
See.
Planet Detroit versus the Roxanne Plague by Magotron. I don't know. That's what the internet told me. I don't have that record. I need to go find that. Anyway, let's hear another song. Here goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got MC Shan and Marley Marl in the house tonight. They just came from off tour. They want to tell you a little story about where they come from.
You love to hear the stories again and again of how it all got started way back when. The monument is right in your face. Sit and listen for a while to the days of a place.
All right, that's The Bridge by MC Shan, produced by Marley Marl. That was a big record for you. I mean, tell me about MC Shan. Where did he come from? Well, he came from The Bridge, clearly, but
Yeah, definitely. I met Shin one day. I was in the park writing rhymes. I probably was writing Sucker DJs for Dimples D, and he was riding his mini bike. He told me he had a song about me, so we did Marley Scratch, and then later on we was doing background music for Queensbridge Day, and that song wasn't even supposed to be a record, straight out. It was just supposed to be background music in between bands that we would play on Queensbridge Day, because Queensbridge at that point was very band heavy. Like Daryl Payne lived on my block, Andre Booth, he was a musician, Mike Trax, Bernard Fowler that sings with the Rolling Stones right now was from the hood, so it was very band heavy around my way, and the bands were ruling. So I said to Shan, let's make some intermission music that we could play in between the bands. And when we first played The Bridge, everybody went crazy. So we played it about 20 times that day. In between every break, we was playing that record, everybody was going crazy. And it wasn't supposed to be a record at all. And just, off of another thing that wasn't supposed to happen, that happened, like you mentioned. They suggested that we put it on the B-side of Beat Biter. And it was the B-side, not the
B-side wins
A-side.
again.
It was the B-side. So the B-side is usually the record that you're not really pushing. You just needed something to go on the back there to hold the weight. That was the B-side. The B-side blew up bigger than the A-side. And, that started the whole Bridge Wars with KRS. When in the beginning of that record, I didn't say hip-hop started out in Queensbridge. I didn't say that. But I believe due to the ignorance of the people at the time, when he said that we said something that we never said, everybody just went with it. So
They believed it when you said
yeah,
it.
they just believed it. That, oh, they said that hip hop started in the Bronx. Oh, F them. But we never said hip hop started in the Bronx.
You never said it started in Queensbridge.
We never said it
Queens.
started in Queensbridge.
Yeah, yeah.
We never said that.
Right,
We said, you know, we said this is a story about where we come from.
right,
And we was telling the story about how hip hop erupted in our neighborhood.
right. And so they basically did to you guys what you guys did to UTFO, like with Answer Records.
100%.
And so, it worked. It put Roxanne Shantae on the map and
Right.
the Juice Crew,
Right.
and then this put the Boogie Down Productions on
But
the
this
map.
felt
So
way
they
more
learned from the
serious,
best of
though.
them, huh?
This felt way more serious.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the
Yeah.
Roxanne was like
Right.
kind of fun, like you know.
Right,
it's like-
right. It was kind of fun. You got to think, one of my first records with Polo was an answer record to Run DMC, Forever This.
Right.
You know, so I was always making answer records back in the day because I was that type of DJ. I wanted something special that nobody else had.
Right.
And, you know, it always became a record after that for some,
So the Terminators came out before Molly Scratch?
Yep.
Okay.
100%.
Let's do number 3.
That might sound like they're his president right now. That might sound like
It's a demo
Massive.
by DJ Polo and Kool G Rap, and then they switched, and it became Kool G Rap and DJ Polo. But so, Kool G Rap says that the day he met you was the day he recorded this with
Yep, he made a demo, and that's why it was called a demo, because it was a demo. It's a demo. I'm like, what's the name of it? It's a demo. Okay, it's a demo.
That's exactly what he said. So this has the funky drummer James Brown break beat in there, and it's gotta be, if not the first, one of the first hip hop records to use that break beat, and that becomes the go-to break beat for hip hop records for pretty much the rest of the 80s.
Yes, I believe It's a Demo was the first song to actually loop that funky
Right,
drummer
yeah.
loop in there, the first record to do it.
So it sort of defines hip hop for the rest of that decade. And then you went to high school with DJ Polo? Okay.
Yeah, me and DJ Polo went to 600 High School. That's bad people school. When you get kicked out of regular high school or regular school, they put you in the bad schools. And I met him in woodworking class. We would always skip class and go to woodworking class and make speakers. And that's where I met him inside woodworking class. And then I always told him, you know, I knew I was gonna be famous anyway. I just told him, I was like, yo, I'm gonna come back and get you one day, kid. He thought I was bugging. And then one day, you know, I said, yo, go get a rapper, go get a so-and-so, I'm gonna put you on. He's like, what? And
Yeah.
basically, you know.
And Kool G
That's right.
Rap and DJ Polo met each other because Eric B introduced them to each
That's
other
right.
from Eric B and Rakim.
That's right.
So there's a connection there. Let's hear number 4.
Yes, y'allin', chillin' like me. You can either dance or just have a seat and listen to the weighing. What I am displaying, a different kind of rapper language that I am saying. To all the party people that enjoy with my info. When it come to rockin' parties, I am a info maniac, brainiac for doing my dancing. My record make the music, we'll put you in a trance.
That is Nobody Beats the Biz by Bismarcky.
Once again, the first person to ever use the Lafayette Afro Rock Band beat, which
Wow.
also became a staple later. But that was definitely the first.
What was the impact on you when you first heard that one?
I was like, okay, they're already winning with the EP with Making Music and the Biz Dance and all that. And then that, I was like, the Steve Miller joint. And Biz kind of had a
In the
different.
loop live, or how was that? Was it being you were able to sample that long?
I was actually mixing that live.
You were mixing it
Yeah.
over the drum machine
Yeah,
live,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's what I thought.
And this time we get
Tracks.
the open hi-hat, which I
Right.
was like,
Right.
yeah.
But that was like, probably the first time I heard like a full drum beat like that. On
And
the song.
DJ Premier always cites this as the template for Gangstar, and actually pretty much all of DJ Premier's productions from
Yeah.
the 80s
Scratching
until now.
on the top.
Yeah, you scratch in a vocal sample from another hip hop record onto
Answering to the next one, answering to the next, and building the chorus.
Right.
And he told me that's his blueprint.
Right.
That song right there.
And you kept it Juice Crew, because it's
right.
Shantae. And on
That's
a
right.
Shantae and Biz record
Right.
that happened, 2 years prior.
That's right.
Def Fresh Crew. Yeah, and Gangstar just put out a record today, and you can still hear it to this day. It's a brand new record. You hear the remnants of this song.
Not to mention also like a whole bunch of turntablist routines in championships.
Oh, yeah.
Use the hell out of this record.
Yeah.
Right. I remember back in the day, I used to watch the DMC tapes, and they would only use my records. Like, I was like, wow, everybody's cutting up all my joints. Like, were they that DJ friendly?
Hells yeah. They were the loudest.
Yeah.
And they were the funkiest.
Well, I gotta say, because I was at home making it on a little messy 4-track cassette sometime, or a 4-track reel, and I gotta say, the mastering guys saved my ass.
Wow.
Because they would hate to see me coming. I made some shit in my house. I want you to make it sound great.
Who mastered it? Was it Howie?
Herb Powers.
Herb Powers, yeah,
Back
yeah,
in
yeah.
the day.
And Carlton Batts, right?
Carlton Batts did
Yeah,
Eric
yeah.
B's president.
And these guys would also make acetates of the instrumental versions of all
Yes.
these songs.
Yes.
So when you saw a rap group perform, the DJ was playing the instrumental version
Right.
of the song, so that the guy doesn't have to rap over his
Right.
own
Now,
voice.
I know they used to cringe when I used to come, because these are recordings from my living room. They didn't really sound as great as the record sound. Of course, the mastering guys was really great back in the days, because look, I'm making songs off of 4 tracks in my house.
But what made it great was that it wasn't so polished. So for me as a kid, like in high school, like at my high school, people liked Living on a Prayer, and that was like the song of the year. And I'm like, oh, I hate this shit.
Bon Jovi? Okay.
But like, yeah, it was so raw and different, you know.
It was
And I
almost-
didn't know at the time it was a 4-track, but I just knew I liked it, and that, you know.
It was almost like listening to psychedelic rock for the first time. I mean, it was huge. You had the drenched reverb, you had the backwards scratching noise. I mean, it was like, damn, man.
And then you have a guy named TJ Swan singing the chorus.
Make TJ Swan,
make the
yeah.
music with your mouthpiece.
Pretty much. And he says, TJ Swan says, Marley says, you say my name is TJ Swan, nobody beats the biz. I was like, okay. I went back in the studio, recorded that, and ad-libbed the rest. I'll rock you on and on. That was the most incredible moment that could happen for my career, because now everybody knows the name inside the record. That's what.
Someone you might know. He's bound to wreck your body from the tip of your toe all the way up until your last hair follicle. Hey, it's me, the diabolical. Yes, Charlotte, it's time for me to fall into a funky beat to make you have a falling like jump. Make you move your rump on the floor and like pump. Come on, don't be a chump. I see 4 and maybe 5.
Okay, that's good.
Party people buck the rest of us.
Okay, that's Me and the Biz by Masta Ace. This is the strangest backstory of any song that's
Now-
talked about in this book.
How many of y'all think that was Biz rhyming on the record in the show of
When I
hands?
first
Show of
heard
hands.
it, definitely.
Yeah, I thought so when I first heard it. Absolutely.
That's actually Masta Ace imitating Biz.
Taking a page out of Wayne and Charlie's book, right? What was it? The Sugar Hill record? Rapping Dummy guy? He had the thing.
Right.
And Positive K, I got him, man.
Oh
I don't
man,
that
you know
might
more
be-
than me. So Masta Ace said that it was supposed to be a track for Biz Markie.
He was actually referencing it for Biz to show him how to do it. But, you know, something happened. Biz never showed up to the studio. I don't quite know why.
He was out buying sneakers or something. Or Kung Fu movies.
Kung Fu shoes or something.
Right.
Cereal.
So the part of the song where you hear Masta Ace pretending to be Biz Markie was supposed to be a reference track for Biz Markie to then go over and rap those same words himself. And that never happened, and the record came out anyway with just Masta Ace pretending to be Biz Markie, and it's incredible. So,
And Biz didn't even show up to the video either. So you got
better and
Masta Ace riding around with a dummy in the car.
paper mache Biz Markie.
Yeah.
And I talked to Vicky Toback, who put out this book called Contact High, which are hip hop photographs, and she had a big thing at the Annenberg for a couple months ago, all hip hop photos, and she said she was going to pay to fly out the Biz Markie doll, pay for a plane ticket for the Biz Markie doll, have him seat belted into the plane to bring him all the way across the country, and then display him at the Annenberg. But the problem was that the doll is disintegrating because this was 29 years ago, and whatever material it was made of is falling to pieces. So, but I thought that would have been great if there was a video of this little fake Biz Markie doll. I want to say it is Chairman Mao.
Yeah, Ego Trip. They made a poster of all different people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, including him. Right.
Dante Ross, son.
We skipped one. That one. Okay. All right. We'll do. Troy Shelton. This is the very first person I interviewed for the book when I started more than 2 years ago. Right here, he was a promo man on the East Coast, and worked for Warner Brothers Records just after that. And so, thanks for coming, Troy. I have a book for you. You don't buy one. You're in this book. I'm giving you. All right, let's do that other one.
Once again, first drum on this.
Here I am, R-A-W, a terrorist, here to bring trouble to phony and seeds. I move on and seize, I just conquer and solve another rapper with ease. Cause I'm at my apex and others are below, nothing but a milliliter. I'm a kilo, second to none, making MCs run, so don't try to step to me, cause I ain't the one. I believe rappers just like Tylenol, and they know it. So I don't see why you all try to front, perpetrating a stunt, when you know that I smoke it up like a blunt. I'm genuine like Gucci, raw like sushi. The stage of rage is what rap did to me, to make me wanna create chaos and mayhem. Cold rock a party until the AM. I'll make a muscle, grab the mic and hustle. While you stand dazed in a maze, I'll bump a little rhyme with authority, superiority, and captivate the whole crowd's majority. The rhymes I use definitely amuse, better than Dynasty or Hill Street Blues. I'm sure to score and don't for more without a flaw, cause I get raw.
That's Big Daddy Kane, Raw.
Oh man! Once again, I gotta say, first time that drum loop Bobby Bird was ever used. So, and the one thing I really, I just realized it, or I remembered it, is paying attention to what you sampled. You went outside of the Ultimate Breaks and Beats to grab your drum loops, and I really, I thought that was dope because it was like, those records were great and they changed hip hop, but man, you went outside of that, the Voodoo Non and the Bobby Bird and things later even. So, that was one of the things I thought separated you from the rest, which was incredible.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
As a digger,
Yeah,
DJ, and producer.
I definitely understand because I used to think that sometimes I would use a record and then they would put it on the break beats.
Well, I think that's probably what happened with Impeach, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so tell me about, this kind of goes back to 2 songs ago. The day you met Big Daddy Kane was for the Nobody Beats the Biz recording session.
Yes, it was. He showed up to the house talking about he was Biz Markie's writer. I'm like, huh, what? And then I said, tell me something that you would know. And he told me one of the rhymes. I was like, okay. So I let him in, but I wasn't going to let him in at first. I had the chain on the door.
Was
Trusty
everyone trying to
chain.
come through after you had a couple hits? Or?
Oh, man, I had to move.
Yeah.
I definitely had to move. It got too out of hand. I had to leave the neighborhood because I was getting too popular. I tried to stay there. I tried as long as possible. I think I was probably making $200,000 a year still living in the projects.
Wow.
I tried to stay,
Yeah.
but I had to go.
So Big Daddy Kane says this of you. I think Marley pioneered the art of sampling. if I'm correct, I think it's Trouble Funk that Curtis Blow sampled, but it's some other shit going on. Marley was the one that made it that park jam. Marley made it sound like a DJ was just constantly bringing the beat back, like back in the days when we rhymed at the park jams. Marley was making it feel like that. But now he's putting that grit to it, where it's more than what you hear on the turntable. It got extra thump to it. It got an 808 hitting on the one. Boom, boom, boom. It's if it's a fast beat like on Raw, I'm thinking, we done with Raw. Marley's the one that came and was like, yo, check this out. He added a tambourine. You hear it? In the original, there's a tam there. You don't hear it? He added it there. So Marley really defined the whole art of sampling. That's Big Daddy Kane, what he said to me, and that's in the book.
Well, the funny thing about that Raw beat, I looped it straight, but he wanted to go boom, ta, 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 off beat. I'm like, no, I want to loop it straight. So we had a little argument that day. I made it straight. He went to the pizza place and came back. It was straight. He's like, come on, man. I want it to be off beat because there's a pause in my rhyme that has to meet it. So I did it off beat. I was upset, did it off beat, and it became what it became.
Well, that's consistent with Get Into It, which came before it because the coolest backbeat was off too.
That's right. Yep. So
I dug that.
And then, so Kane kind of pushes you as a producer because he challenges you, and then ain't no half stepping. He wants to layer like 8 or 9 samples on this thing, and you're just telling him, no, we got to strip it back down.
It's too much.
Yeah, and then
and it becomes a hit. I mean, he pushed the envelope with me because most of the other beats, I used to make beats and just give them to Shan or Shantae or whoever. I make a beat. This is gonna go to Shan. This is gonna go to Shantae. This is gonna go to Kool G Rap. This is gonna go to anybody. But Kane wasn't like that. Right. Kane would say, "That's cool, but I want to use this."
Right.
So I would be sitting there with an attitude, making the beat, but he's pushing me. Yeah. I want to use this horn right here, but I'm like, it doesn't match. How am I do it? He said, "Well, make it work." So I have to like figure out how to filter out the bass and just have the horn going across. There's a lot of little tricks like that. But it taught me for later on. I was like, I could use these tricks that I'm learning with Kane because he's pushing me. The other artist wasn't pushing me as a producer. To be honest, I wouldn't have been ready for LL if I wasn't working with Kane.
Marley Marl produced Mama Said Knock You Out, the entire album by LL Cool J. After all these records we're listening to. So Kane also pushes rapping, MCing as an art. So he's really kind of helping define the sound of the next 7 or so years of hip-hop music, or probably more than that.
And he's bringing the tempo up, too, because, just before that, everything was like WAP. It was WAP music. Everybody was doing the WAP. Eric B. is President, Top Billin', The Bridge. Those are all WAP records, WAP Your Neck. Yeah. But Kane wasn't making WAP music.
You think that was for his live show with the 2 dancers?
I believe that he just had that energy of a James Brown.
Yeah.
Right.
He had like a different energy. Yeah. And when he started telling me, make it faster, man, I'm looking at him like, you're bugging. Nobody's rhyming that fast, Dukes. Yeah. But he's like in 120 something, 125.
And then there's nothing you can mix with it as a DJ.
Right.
It's time. Maybe.
The year Raw came out, 1987, was also the year I discovered punk music, and like now looking back on it, it makes so much sense. Like I just wanted fast music, so it prepared me for that.
But Kane pushed the envelope. He made me go faster. Make it faster. I'm looking at him crazy. Faster. I want to go faster. I'm like, okay.
Then finally, the Wrath of Kane.
And then the 90s, and then the 90s come, and everyone starts smoking tons of weed, and the tempo slow down. Right?
Mid to late 90s, yeah.
Let's do the last one. This is the last one, and then we're gonna sign books here. All of us will sign books, and so you buy the book there, and we sign it here. All right, here goes the last one.
I don't care who's first or who last, but I know that y'all just better rock this at the drop of a dime, baby. I don't know what y'all gonna do with this, but it got to be funky. It got to be funky if you're gonna be on it. I don't care who start, I don't care what y'all do, but you got to be finished before the music is through. Listen.
That's the Symphony
Yo,
by Marley Marl.
once again, pulling out a drum loop for the first time, which is at Chuck Colburn. Like, and you know, that one's not so famous, but no one's used it before that. So, I mean, once again, on the digging, this dude.
Well, I actually got the bottom beat from Aaron Fuchs back in the day.
No kidding.
Aaron Fuchs gave me that beat.
Wow.
And, you know,
can we say his name without
we can
getting
say
into
it, so
trouble?
it's all right.
Okay.
Aaron Fuchs from Tough City Records. I interviewed him. He's in the book.
Anyway, he used to give me records as pay because I was fixing a lot of his songs back
Oh, wow,
in the day.
okay.
So he would give me a handful of 45s. Hey, I want you to fix this Kool G record here. This is what I got for you. I'm like, ooh, nice. And he always had some nice records because I think he was a writer for Billboard.
That's right.
For Funk and Soul back in the
Yeah,
funky times.
That's right.
definitely.
So he had a lot.
So you had a hand in some of the records on Tough City? Is
Yeah.
Well, the Spoonie G, that
Yeah, I was the New York City rapper.
Godfather by Spoonie G.
I made The Godfather.
Of
that
course.
Serve
What
You
am I
Right.
thinking?
Didn't you do Serve You Right?
Yeah.
Serve You Right?
Yep.
You did
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Because that had your sound with the mic and everything too.
Yeah.
I felt like.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
was a few on records.
And so this photograph here that is on the cover of the book was taken for the In Control Volume 1 Marley Marl album. And then later this day, they drive to Marley Marl's house and they record the song we just heard, the Symphony. So you have Masta Ace, Craig G, Kool G Rap, and Big Daddy Kane all rapping on this song that Marley Marl produced. And then you have an Otis Redding sample in there
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Hard to handle, Otis Redding.
That came from Hal Jackson's collection at the radio station. Hal Jackson was a radio DJ at WBLS before I got there, and he had a lot of funky records. And you know, one day Champagne was like, "Hey, I got something for you," and she pulled it out. She said, "Use this on the record," and it was the piano. Dun, 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 dun. I was like, "Wow."
Okay, that's cool because for a long time I heard this legend like, oh no, he used to get records from the WBLS archive, and I was like, oh, that must be dope.
Oh yeah,
And it's true.
yeah. We bought the archive out when they moved. We bought the archive out,
Damn.
but it was a lot of records. Hal Jackson had a lot of soul records, and I would utilize the library all the time.
I have one personal question I got to know. Go Southside by Frickin' Frack, does that exist on any kind of format?
I believe it was a 12-inch.
Oh man,
That
come
was
on.
a 12-inch.
Yeah, all right. I need that.
And what was the just rhyming with Biz, Big Daddy Kane and Biz Markie? Frickin' Frack were at the end of that, and they got cut from the record.
Yeah, they got cut from the record because they wasn't on our label, and Tyrone told me to cut it off. And I remembered seeing, this is back in the reel-to-reel days, so at mastering, I remember seeing the tape going on the floor with them rhyming, and I was thinking to myself, do I have another copy of that? Do I have another copy? And I got home and didn't have another copy, and I called the Herb up. Hey, did you get? Hey, we cleaned that up, bro. I was like,
Oh man.
so I lost the treasure vocal because they did it straight to 2-track. That song was done straight to 2-track.
Damn you, Tyrone.
I had a quarter inch, and then I would go to DAT when DATs came out. But quarter inch was my thing.
8-track?
I had a 8-track quarter inch too. Yeah, it was an 8-track quarter inch, and then I had a quarter inch 2-track that I would mix down to, and do all my edits.
When did you make the jump from 4-track to 8-track, or do you even know?
Just after, like around Make the Music and all of that stuff, and then I went to 8-track. When Make the Music with Your Mouth Biz was 4-track. Nobody Beats the Biz was 8-track.
Okay.
That's how I moved
Do
up.
you still have all your like multis?
100%.
Wow.
They all digitized too. Everything's digitized.
Yeah.
We're gonna. It's funny. It just happened to work out this way. It wasn't planned, but today's all DJ producers, and then we're doing Brooklyn on November 14th at the Powerhouse Arena. So if anyone has family in New York, tell them to go to that, and that's going to be with Masta Ace and Craig G. So that's with rappers. We'll open the floor up to like maybe 3 questions, and then we'll do the signing. Does anyone want to know something? Yes.
You spoke about how you got influences from overseas. Were any of them like Kraftwerk in Germany or like Yellow Magic Orchestra from Japan?
It was Yellow Magic. It was Kraftwerk. It was Giorgio. Anything electronic that was coming from overseas, I was definitely on it because I was electronics head. I was a trigger guy. Anything that triggered anything that happened, I was into it.
Anybody else? Yes.
I believe Kane wrote that.
Kane wrote the lyrics. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Kane wrote it.
Yep.
And TJ Swan sung the chorus.
And when you know that and you go back and you listen to it, it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like,
Yes.
the
Yo,
rhyming is more
so the,
complicated than the songs Biz wrote for
Do it
himself.
in a Kane
Says
voice,
that.
and it comes off natural.
That's right.
I believe I do have a copy of Kane reffing that.
Whoa.
I do have a reference of Kane with that.
You got to put that out on
I got
Hot Chillin' record.
I got a reference of Go On Girl with Kane doing Go On Girl.
That's Roxanne Shantae,
Roxanne
Go On Girl,
Shantae,
written by
totally.
Kane.
I got that reference too.
We got to talk.
Back in the with the orange sweater. I mean, I can answer that. You can answer that. Okay. Well, there was a record label called Prism in New York, which was a disco label in the late 70s. And then it was like a dance label going into the 80s. And then Len Fichelberger was the owner of Prism Records. And then Biz Markie signed with Prism, started putting out singles on Prism. And then they, the rest of the Juice Crew MCs followed suit. So then they decided, we got to have a new name for all these rap records we're putting out. So they came up with the name called Chillin'. And then by the time, the manager for all these Juice Crew rappers was this guy, Tyrone Williams. So when they ended up signing a distribution deal with Warner Brothers, he became co-owner. So Len Fichelberg and Tyrone Williams were the owners of Cold Chillin' Records. And it lasted probably from 80, definitely 86 is when it started, to 96, 97, something like that. I think it's
And it operated as an indie for the first 2 or 3 years?
yeah, first
Because
first
88
year.
was when it got picked up, right?
late 87.
Late
First,
87.
So 1 year as an independent label, then Warner Brothers end of 87, and then a couple records through Epic in the mid 90s, and then back to being in an indie. So that's the story of, I mean, there's so much more to the story of Called Chillin', but it's in the book. I think that's good. Thanks so much. This is a weird fever dream come true. We got Cut Chemist, Peanut Butter Wolf, and Marley Marl. Incredible. Thanks so much.
Thank you. He can say I was
And my
there.
cousin Toby.
Toby can say I was there.